AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hey everyone, this is Peter, and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world, including this one, and all in one place. Download Podcast Republic now, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. World War I is remembered for its trenches, its gas masks, its endless mud, and its staggering loss of life. But buried beneath the shells and the smoke is quite another story, one that changed medicine, gender, and the meaning of service. In an era when most doctors were men and women were told their place was at home, a group of trailblazing women built a hospital of their own on the front lines of the deadliest war the world had ever seen. There were physicians, surgeons, nurses, and administrators, women who refused to sit out history. This is the forgotten story of the Women's Overseas Hospital, the hospital run by women for soldiers in the midst of World War I.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
When the war erupted in Europe in 1914, medicine was about to face its greatest test. Modern weapons, machine guns, artillery, poison gas, produced wounds no army had ever seen. Limbs shredded, lungs burned by chlorine, infections that spread faster than doctors could treat them. The world's medical systems simply weren't ready, and that included its gender system. Women had been fighting for decades to enter the medical profession. By the early 20th century, they had made some progress. Schools like Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania and London School of Medicine for Women had trained hundreds of capable female doctors. But hospitals, military services, and universities still shut them out of leadership roles. When the Great War began, many of these women saw an opportunity and a moral obligation. If the world needed doctors, they were ready to serve. But when they offered their help to governments and armies, the answer came back the same: no. The military didn't want female doctors. Women, it was said, lacked the stamina, composure, and authority to handle the pressures of war. So, they decided to prove everyone wrong. In 1917, a group of American women doctors, many affiliated with the National American Women Suffrage Association, the leading organization campaigning for the right to vote, launched a bold new project. They would create their own hospital, staffed and run entirely by women, and take it to the war zone themselves. It would be called the Women's Overseas Hospital, or WOH for short. They raised their funds through private donations, suffrage groups, and charitable appeals. The idea was as political as it was medical. These women wanted to heal the wounded, but they also wanted to show the world that women could do what women could do when given authority. In the words of one organizer, "We seek to serve and to demonstrate that women's service knows no limits." The WOH wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was a fully functional hospital, complete with surgical units, operating theaters, wards, and laboratories, all managed, supplied, and staffed, you guessed it, by women. It was a statement in steel and soldiers, equality in action. In the early 1917, the first team of WOH staff sailed to France, a nation still reeling from years of carnage. After all, this was World War I. They arrived not as volunteers under male command, but as an independent unit, coordinated within the French Red Cross, and later with the American Committee for Devastated France. Their destination was Chateau Agnon, near the battle-scarred region of Picardy, a place repeatedly shelled during the war. They converted the old chateau into a working hospital, rigging up operating rooms from dining halls and turning cellars into recovery wards. The women worked amid the roar of artillery and the whine of distant planes. When wounded soldiers arrived, sometimes by horse-drawn ambulance, sometimes on stretchers carried through mud, they went to work with speed and precision. They treated shrapnel wounds, amputations, burns, gas exposure, and infections. Many soldiers were astonished when they realized the entire hospital, from the chief surgeon to the anesthesiologist, was staffed by women. Some resisted at first, embarrassed or skeptical, but that vanished the moment they saw results. As one French soldier later wrote, "They saved me with hands more steady than any I have ever seen. These women, they have courage like soldiers." Running a hospital near the front was dangerous. The staff lived with the constant threat of shell fire. Supply lines were unreliable, sanitation was a daily battle. The doctors worked 18-hour days, sometimes performing 40 surgeries in a single stretch. When not operating, they were sterilizing instruments, rationing morphine, and improvising equipment from whatever they could find. They treated not only Allied troops, but civilians as well, men, women, and children wounded by the chaos of war. They also confronted diseases that thrived in the trenches, namely dysentery, influenza, and typhus. And they did all of this while fighting another kind of enemy, prejudice. Local commanders doubted them. Male doctors questioned their competence. Yet the WOH persisted, earning respect through excellence. The French government formally recognized the hospital for its service, and both French and American military surgeons began consulting its staff on wound management and infection control. These women weren't just doing their part, they were leading innovation in wartime medicine. The Women's Overseas Hospital soon expanded beyond France. Additional units were sent to Serbia and Greece, where medical facilities had been decimated by war and epidemic. In Serbia, the WOH staff faced appalling conditions, starvation, disease, and villages wiped out by retreating armies. They set up field hospitals, treated civilians and refugees, and fought outbreaks of typhus, often without adequate supplies or any clean water. In one letter home, a WOH nurse would write, "We have no beds, no blankets, no morphine. Yet they keep on coming, hundreds of them. We do what we can, and pray the trains bring bandages tomorrow." These women risked their lives daily. Several contracted diseases themselves, and some died in service. But they kept on going, because they saw that their work, not only as medical service, but as a declaration of human equality. They were proving, in the most direct way possible, that women could lead, heal, and endure under fire. The success of the Women's Overseas Hospital spread far beyond its wards. For soldiers, it meant survival. For society, it meant something revolutionary. By the end of the war, WOH staff had treated tens of thousands of patients, performed hundreds of complex surgeries, and managed epidemics across multiple regions. Their performance was widely praised by Allied governments and military officials alike, many of whom had initially doubted them. But their deeper impact was quite symbolic. They had shattered the myth that women were too delicate or too emotional for the realities of medicine and war. They had built, organized, and operated a hospital that rivaled any run by men, under conditions that few men could have endured. When they returned home, they didn't just bring experience, they brought proof that competence has no gender. The work toll was heavy. The women of the WOH lived in constant exhaustion. Some developed chronic illness from exposure to gas or disease. Others returned home with PTSD, but their sacrifices were largely invisible. While the press celebrated generals, pilots, and statesmen, the WOH faded from public memory. Even within medical history, women's contributions were often footnoted or forgotten. Yet the lessons of the WOH would ripple outward, shaping medicine and gender roles long after the armistice. Speaking of armistice, after 1918, many WOH veterans went on to transform peacetime medicine. They became hospital administrators, professors, and pioneers of public health. Some helped found women's hospitals and clinics across the United States and Europe. The war had given them something no university or residency ever could: experience in trauma care, logistics, and leadership under fire. And it wasn't just professional change. The WOH's link to the suffrage movement tied medicine to politics. When American women finally won the right to vote in 1920, the success of female-led wartime service helped strengthen the argument that women's participation in public life wasn't just moral, it was essential. In that sense, every bandage wrapped, every wound closed, every life saved in those makeshift wards helped stitch together a broader transformation, one that reached far beyond the battlefield. The records of the WOH are scattered, the personnel forgotten, and its story overshadowed by male-dominated histories of World War I. Historians rediscovered it only recently, piecing together letters, photos, and medical logs from archives in Pennsylvania, London, and Paris. One photograph shows the staff posing in front of the French chateau, rows of women in white uniforms, smiling faintly, their faces lined with fatigue. Behind them, the walls bear scars from artillery shells. They were not symbols of fragility. They were symbols of endurance. In the mud and blood of the Great War, these women redefined what it meant to serve. Hopefully today's episode has inspired you to seek out and learn more about this subject. For answers to questions, sources for today's episode, to leave a comment, or check out upcoming guest announcements, visit www.historyshortspodcast.com or look for History Shorts Podcast on Facebook and X. Stay curious, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.